Can you hear it out there on that one?
Yes, we're good. Thank you much.
Okay, very good.
Ryan, do you want me to share the slides? I know you
Yeah.
uploading them in advance.
Yeah, they all have copies of it, but if you could share it on your computer,
Okay.
or, yeah, that'd be great. Just make sure we stop on this one, all right? Boom, there you go. No problem.
All set? All right. Welcome and thank you for coming to tonight's meeting. Township of Hampton Planning Commission, first thing we have is reorganization meeting, Monday, January 12th, 2026. And can we have a call to order, please?
Mr. Deems?
Here.
Mr. Hess?
Here.
Mr. Venture?
Here.
Mr. Nugent?
Here. Thank you. Okay, our reorganization meeting. First item is election of chairperson.
I make a motion to, that Mr. Hess be chairperson.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Next, we have election of vice chairperson. We have a
I move to nominate Jim Venture for vice chairperson.
Second.
Moving to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Next, we have election of secretary.
I'll make a motion that we elect Dan as the secretary.
Second.
Second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now we review the meeting dates for the remainder of 2026. Anyone have any conflicts that they know of or problems?
I do have a conflict on the 9th, next month. That's the only
Okay.
one I have.
All right.
We normally don't, like, we just worry about holidays or something.
Yep, yep.
Sure, we're good.
Make a motion that we approve the dates as stated on the second Monday of the month at 7 PM listing of meetings.
Second.
Moving to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved and approved. All right.
We have to adjourn.
Do we have to adjourn that?
No, we were just
We're
doing.
just gonna slide right in.
Yeah.
All right. All right, our next item is, I'd like to open a public hearing regarding zoning ordinance and saldo for the new proposed documents. So,
Okay, everybody can see my slides okay?
see you.
Oh, you see me?
Oh, there you go.
That's better.
Okay. We're going to go through these slides, and to most of you, all of you, they're going to seem very familiar because the content is generally the same from our joint meeting. But tonight is, as we've talked about many points throughout this process, tonight begins the formal adoption process. The township staff, planning commission, EAC, commissioners, and your consultant team have been working on this project through lots of meetings, and now we're heading into the formal process. We're going to talk about the schedule, go through some of the updates for both the zoning and the saldo, and then, as I said, those next steps in the formal process. We began back in December, really late 2024, but working on the project throughout 2025, and we're on track to get this adopted, and both of these ordinances adopted in March of this year. At that October meeting, we had that joint meeting with the commissioners, the Planning Commission, and the EAC. We talked about the community engagement initiatives and the result from that. We talked about the audits that we completed of both the zoning and subdivision land development ordinances as they currently exist. We reviewed some of the key changes to both the new zoning and new saldo. Reviewed the application and review approval processes because there's some tweaks there. We also reviewed the zoning map, and we're going to review all of those things today again as this first step in the formal process. In terms of the major zoning map changes, Conservation A District and Conservation B District were combined into Conservation C, and we created the new Route 8 Main Street District, which was a primary focus area of a lot of the meetings and a lot of the effort from the committee and work on the ordinance in terms of addressing that northern corridor of Route 8. I also did want to pause here and confirm there was some discussion around the ORD district, and we've decided to leave that as is. I just want to confirm that with the group. We had gone back and forth last time. I believe staff reviewed it with the solicitor, but we're not changing that property to light industrial at this point. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. In terms of updates to the ordinance, again, for the map, creating the Route 8 district, combining those two conservation districts, and also, we've talked about this a couple times, but another reminder that as we go through the adoption process, there might be some questions about all that's changing because this map appears drastically different from the township's current zoning map. That is not because there are massive rezonings. The major zoning change is that new corridor, the Route 8 corridor district in magenta on the map. However, all of the district colors have changed to be more in line with typical planning and zoning practice so that applicants, property owners, and planners, frankly, that might be looking at your ordinance and map concerning uses and projects that are proposed have a familiarity with the overarching themes in terms of residential and non-residential districts. So these districts are not changing in terms of their footprint, but the colors have changed to be in line with more typical planning colors. In terms of the districts, section 310 of the new ordinance outlines all of the districts as you see here on slide 8, from the conservation district to residential districts A through D, general commercial, neighborhood commercial, Route 8, light industrial, and heavy industrial. The new zoning ordinance now has a table of uses that allows for easy access to information related to what uses are allowed where in the township and what uses are allowed on a particular property. So, for example, in this slide is an excerpt from that use chart showing the accessory uses section of the table. The permitted uses are listed down the far left column, and all of the zoning districts, in color-coded to align with the zoning map, are listed at the top row of the use chart. This allows property owners to identify what uses are permitted on their property based on what zoning district it's located within, and then it also allows for an applicant or someone interested in proposing a use in the township can identify a particular use in the chart and find what zoning districts, which zoning districts that particular use is allowed in the township. And sorry, and to also emphasize in terms of how this use chart is used, this chart identifies the A's as accessory uses, and then there's also...
Excuse us,
John. We have a question from our lone attendee.
Oh, absolutely.
Can
Hello.
you actually state your name and address before you?
Absolutely. So I'm Pierre-Yves Lafont. I'm a new resident in Hampton Township. Just moved in 4077 Clarkland Avenue. So I'm asking one question. So I understand that there is some districts will allow permitted use by right, others will require a permit. What does the A mean here? Does this require a permit, or is it allowed by right?
It's allowed as an accessory use, and
Accessory.
it would require a zoning permit, but it's allowed by right unless it is identified as a C, which would be conditional use, and that requires additional permitting processes that go to the Planning Commission and the commissioners for a public hearing if there's a C for conditional use.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sure.
Just a note on that, I mean, this slide doesn't show that whole page. There's a legend that indicates that when you actually have the piece of paper. Okay, so when you see it later on, it'll be clear. Proceed, John.
Okay. In terms of that table of uses, we've simplified the use types and then also spent a lot of time on the definitions to ensure that not only are each of the terms for the uses that are permitted in the township are clearly identified in the use chart, but that each of those uses has a definition, which is extremely helpful to applicants, property owners, and the township's zoning officer. We continue to focus the multifamily uses in commercial and RD districts, added new uses that were not currently listed in the township's current ordinance, including winery, vape shop, data center, and museum. And important to point out here, as we embark on this adoption process, that in Pennsylvania, every municipality has to allow for all uses, so it's important that we identify these uses so that the township can regulate where the uses are permitted and how. Neighborhood commercial was also amended because that was a priority that was identified in the process, early in the process through the comprehensive plan and then confirmed by the committee to update the neighborhood commercial. And in that district, uses such as personal service, office, business professional, music and art photo studio, restaurant as a conditional use, and small scale retail are now permitted in that neighborhood commercial district to allow for a broader range of uses and with the goal of keeping those neighborhood commercial areas viable.
Vibrant, yeah.
In terms of the dimensional requirements, one of the main goals, again, similar to the use chart, was to make the new ordinance more user-friendly. So for applicants and property owners, there are now simplified charts that identify for each of the zoning districts the dimensional requirements as well as simple illustrations to help the public understand how these requirements apply. So things like lot size and setbacks are now all aggregated into these summary charts by zoning districts, so it's clear where these requirements apply and what each of these districts, how each of these districts is defined in terms of their bulk and area requirements, like I said, such as lot size and setbacks. I mentioned one of the major changes was the Route 8 Main Street overlay, or Main Street district, and that image that's on the screen here came from the township's comprehensive plan. One of the primary goals of this process that was identified from the comp plan and confirmed with the committee was to focus on that Route 8 corridor, particularly the northern section. Some of the things that this new district does is it reduces setback requirements to allow for more infill development, particularly when uses are adjacent to, similar uses are adjacent to each other, such as commercial next to commercial or industrial. We also increased the height requirement to 4 stories from 3 stories and also incentivized an option for LEED certification to allow that height to increase further up to 5 stories. Sidewalks required along the corridor, not required for minor land development applications, and we'll talk about what that means later when we talk about the new application processes, but basically it's anything very simple in terms of a minor addition to a building or minor renovation to an existing land development would not trigger this requirement. However, as more significant redevelopment or new development occurs along the corridor, sidewalk is required. Again, to help with that redevelopment and infill along the corridor, the lot coverage was reduced to 85%. And then also signage, we limited the signage options to monument and building mounted signage to help improve the character and look of the corridor. For overall parking and loading requirements, we reduced the parking space size to 9 by 18, which is a more typical parking spot size. Updated the parking requirements by use so that every permitted use has a parking requirement. And then we also are requiring parking lot islands for larger lots of 30 spaces or more. And that requirement is a minimum of 8% of the parking area shall be devoted to interior landscaping. We've got 9-foot wide interior islands, which is essentially equivalent to a parking space width. And we also are requiring that island include a shade tree. The tree preservation and tree requirements was a priority of the committee, particularly the EAC members. and those requirements were reviewed by the EAC members, and updates include the protection or replacement requirements remain for large trees. Replacement trees must be preserved in a conservation easement. Trail planting requirements, tree planting requirements for non-residential and multifamily development remain, and we remove certain requirements that are not zoning related or difficult to enforce, such as requirements around fertilizing of trees that are planted as required. Accessory structures was a hot topic.
We have another question, John, another question.
Hello, so this is again Pierre-Yves Lafont, and I'm staying at 4077 Clarkland Avenue. I have a question regarding the tree replacement, so maybe a little bit of background. Together with my wife, we moved into Hampton Township recently in August, and one of the main reasons was that we are we very much like the more rural spirit compared to Pittsburgh, the city, and so we bought a fairly large lot. There are some trees in that lot. And so I would like to understand if we make some changes, if we add another accessory structure or decide to clean up some areas, would we have to go and plant trees elsewhere in replacement? Is now the right time to ask this, or is that a separate Q&A session at the end?
I'm going to recommend that, Brian, that you or staff talk to, it sounds like a site-specific thing, so I'm not exactly sure that I can answer whether or not the requirement would be triggered.
I don't think it would, but I'll give you my card. Let's talk. We'll talk later.
Sounds
okay.
good. Maybe to make the question clearer.
These are more questions, just to be clear, like these requirements that he's talking about are more as it relates to land developments and subdivisions and kind of, you know, larger developments, like Windmont would be a prime example of, you know, one where we had tree replacements and what you end up getting are some guy planting saplings as opposed to planting like a larger caliper tree that has a better chance of survival.
I understand. Does this apply to individual owners or just corporations and large developers?
Applies to all landowners.
All landowners, including
But
individuals?
you're talking, understand what you're talking about is on, this is more towards a land development as opposed to, you're talking about an individual building permit. That's
I
what
think
you're
the-
talking about. If you're talking about just putting up an accessory structure, you're talking about something that's a zoning permit or a building permit.
I
This
think
is,
there will be a
yeah.
possibility to take some of the land and potentially subdivide it in the future. But still, I'm talking about just an individual owner, not a corporation, not a big developer.
Yeah, but you can't differentiate between those two. You can't say the law one set of laws applies to a corporation and one set of laws applies to an individual as it relates to land use and land development. I mean, that's not,
Yeah, so that was my
Yeah.
question. So I'll be happy
Yeah.
to chat a little bit more.
yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you're creating additional lots or creating infrastructure, then this would apply. If you're just worried about your single-family lot, doing stuff on your individual lot, whether that's a garage, a shed, then it wouldn't be applicable.
Got it.
Makes any sense.
Yeah.
So in that case, if we have an owner, whether it's individual or corporation, that decides to subdivide a lot, what will the owner need to do in that case? Would we have to replace all the trees that are being cut?
That would be determined through, I mean, you go through a subdivision process for that, and that's kind of where that's where it's determined, depending on what you're doing.
I see. And
Yeah.
so the guidelines for that process are changing with this new ordinance, or are they the same?
I mean, the process that you'll get this question answered later. The process that you go through with regard to the subdivision may be different depending on the size of the subdivision. A simple subdivision would simply come to the planning commission for approval. More complex subdivisions would go to council, planning commission, then council. But in terms of the actual, what triggers subdivisions and things like that, that's not changing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. John, did I misadvise him at all?
No, that's spot on. Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Accessory structures were addressed and updated in terms of fences being allowed to be constructed alongside and rear property lines. The restrictions relative to fences in the front yard are the same as that currently exists in the current ordinance. We identified regulations for a category of small accessory structures and large accessory structures in terms of the setback requirements and height limits are different based on the size of the accessory structure. Accessory structures in terms of the coverage of the lot are limited by lot coverage, but not limited by a specific cap on the number of structures that are permitted on a lot. We also did an update for the subdivision land development ordinance, so the township now has a new saldo that's ready to be moving through the formal adoption process. Some of the highlights from the new saldo include a requirement for cross-access easements between developments, because that was a priority issue that came out of the comprehensive plan, limitations on development of new private streets, requirements of the sidewalks along the Route 8 corridor, as I mentioned earlier, in that new Route 8 zoning district, and also increasing the sidewalk width to 5 feet, adding open space requirements, requiring trail connections, and we updated several engineering requirements based on the township's engineering review. Okay, Ryan alluded to a few seconds ago about the application types. So we now have an updated application process section in the new subdivision and land development ordinance that's proposed. And the application types are as follows. For major subdivisions, and that would be for 3 or more lots, that's a major subdivision. Major land development is 2 or more residential lots or non-residential buildings or a single non-residential building. A minor subdivision is no more than 2 lots with no new streets, access, or utilities. And a minor land development is additions or minor site changes only. No new construction, 2,000 square feet or less, no new streets, and fewer than 30 parking spaces. That's important in minor land development, as you'll see in terms of the process that it goes through, but also to remind you, I mentioned that minor land development earlier in the sense that the sidewalk requirement in the Route 8 district would not apply to minor land developments. Lot line adjustment is defined as no more than 2 lots, and those new lots need to meet all zoning requirements. Based on those application type definitions, there are new processes in terms of who reviews and who approves, all consistent with the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. For those major land developments and subdivisions, staff will do a review, planning commission will review and recommend, and the township council will approve or deny the application. Minor subdivisions and land development, staff would review, planning commission would approve those minor applications. For lot line adjustments, those will be reviewed and approved by staff. Conditional use applications are required by the municipality's planning code to be reviewed by staff, reviewed by the planning commission, and approved by township council. And the zoning permit will be always, as it must be per the MPC, reviewed and approved by staff. So here's the processes as outlined with those new definitions for subdivision and land development applications. Preliminary and final major applications go to staff. Banded planning commission.
John, you froze there for a second. You froze there for a second. Could you start over?
What happened?
You froze for a second.
Oh,
Yeah, could you start from the beginning on this one, please? Thank you.
for the subdivision land development
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So those definitions from the prior slide are correlate to what we see here in terms of outlining.
Good Lord.
Those go to staff for completeness review, then planning commission reviews and makes a recommendation.
So is your connection okay, John? You're kind of freezing on us here.
Do you understand what's going on with that? They simplified it.
Yeah.
the smaller projects.
Sorry, are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
There we go.
Maybe, I mean, I'm trying to think, maybe, can you shut your camera off? We just see your name. I'm just trying to do what I can to prevent it from freezing again. Okay, it's frozen again.
Brian, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You're not.
Now, okay?
It's still, I mean, you're kind of freezing every couple seconds here.
Okay, I'll leave and come back.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. I think he's frozen right now. Yeah.
Everybody wave.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say though, the questions you're asking, until you decide what you want to do with that property, we're not going to know that, you're not going to know what regulation applies until you know what you want, until you come with what you want to do. So, yeah.
I'm a new resident.
No, that's fine.
Just trying to
Totally
understand,
fair.
What are the processes?
No. Totally fair. It's just, when you're asking us, hey, if I do, it's like, well, we won't know until you actually come with a plan.
Yeah. The staff here is here to help,
Yeah.
and so is the planning commission to a certain degree.
Hey, John, you're back.
Okay.
Let's try again.
Reshare my slides here.
Yep.
Can you see them again?
Yes.
All right. So these are the
Oh, Jesus Christ. John, do me a favor. Shut your camera off.
Am I gone again? Am I there?
You're here. I just don't know for how long. So I'm saying shut your camera off. See if that saves on
Bandwidth.
yeah, some of the bandwidth you're using.
I got a full boat here. in terms
That's
of
what you're
volume.
saying.
On my my Wi-Fi.
I think in the evening they
You
slow
hear me
stuff
now?
down.
Yeah.
This happens at my place too. I
Yeah.
think in the evening, like
Yeah.
People start streaming.
Yeah, John, just
everything's
do me a
like
favor.
that.
Shut the camera off, and just hopefully the bandwidth works. I mean, just because you're also going up against. I mean, God knows what the bandwidth right now is for Steelers home game,
Yeah.
and how much is being used. So I would say, let's go ahead through your presentation. We're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Technology's great until it isn't.
Yeah. Well, again, the timing is. I mean, with
That
the
is
Steelers.
That is the problem.
Oh no, it's a Steelers home game. Everyone's streaming it right now.
You could just
I can
call
only-
into a phone and you could record them, and we could just.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Here's what. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll.
Probably just do a speakerphone.
What's that?
Brian, you got me back?
Yeah, I got you back. Go ahead. Share your screen, and hopefully we can work through this. Oh God, it's not going to work.
You see it?
No, I just
No,
see.
but I have it on here, so if you want to tell me.
Yeah.
What
Go ahead.
page were we on? Like 13?
Yeah, something like that. Keep going.
How's that?
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. You can't see it though.
Let's see. Yes, we can see it. Go ahead. Go.
Okay, so here's the application process. It's preliminary, final, major applications. Staff does a review, goes to the planning commission, and I keep losing you, getting hung up on this. Parenthetically, we've got this recommendation to expand the planning commission. So that would happen in a separate process to add EAC members to the planning commission, because the EAC will no longer be doing formal reviews of land development applications. Those preliminary and final major applications go to council for a decision. For minor applications, for land development and subdivisions, those will go to staff for review, and then the planning commission. And the planning commission will be reviewing and making recommendation on those applications. applications. Actually, they're gonna approve or approve with conditions, some of those applications for minor applications. Okay, so for the adoption schedule, we are here at the Planning Commission formal review and recommendation. We then go to council for their review, that they'll get the final versions that have been distributed last week. Public hearing is tentatively scheduled for March 24th, and adoption as well. And this being the final slide, I want to note too, in terms of this formal process, Ryan has mentioned this several times, and so did Amanda throughout the process, is these ordinances are major updates to both the zoning and the saldo. However, we would expect that after adoption that there might be some continued things that the township wants to update, and we would certainly encourage the township to do minor amendments going forward, not thinking that these are now written in stone and can't be modified further. But both of these ordinances are significant updates to both the zoning and the saldo.
Yeah, and I would second that. I mean, it is a living document. I mean, on an annual basis, we're going to be evaluating it based on variances that are issued by the zoning hearing board. You know, uses change all the time. There may be geometric issues we see with lots, and, you know, there may be certain things we allow in certain zoning districts and not in other zoning districts. And when we look back at it, we're like, gee, why didn't we allow that in that zoning district too? So, I mean, there's no ordinance you can adopt that is instantly perfect. I think this is, it gets the vision of the comp plan, and I think it brings our current ordinance up to the standards of this day and age. But, you know, we're always going to be evaluating it, and there will be changes probably on an annual basis that come through this board and then go to council.
Any questions before the Planning Commission considers a motion to make a recommendation for adoption?
This is Dan Nugent. I had a question. What properties, besides the new designation as that Main Street designation in highway commercial, what other properties have been, where lines have been moved from, what other rezoning took place? Will take place if this is approved?
No other changes other than just the conservation districts being combined. So the Route 8 is really the only new stuff.
Yeah, the only one talked about it before was that light industrial, and that didn't change.
Yeah,
No, the only reason I bring this up is because this was such a contentious item back in the day. There was a big piece of property on Route 8, and you had a residential area. I don't know, it's a couple acres.
It's near the Aldi. You're talking about where the Aldi, across from the Aldi, is that what you're talking about? Yes. Yeah.
Some of that went to the Main Street.
It all went to the Main Street corridor. I mean, that's consistent with the comprehensive plan. It's part of that magenta district. It's all part of that now, and it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. So.
Okay. That's a piece that abuts Oak Hill Farms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many acres is in there?
In total, across, it's
The piece that
it's,
was residential.
the piece that was residential was like 2 acres. I want to say maybe 3.
Maybe
3.
three.
The better part of 3. Yeah. I mean, when you have residential along Route 8 in that area, especially, the thought of more homes going in there, I think it's only going to lead to people who are quite unhappy where they live, to be perfectly honest with you. It's a couple single-family homes in that area is going to be difficult, and especially as you have commercial uses around it. You know, you try to limit those areas where commercial and residential are against each other, it just creates headaches.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Well, I had one thing I was gonna point out was back on in the zoning ordinance, this is like just chicken scratch, but back in the zoning ordinance where you say permitted by right or permitted by conditional use, you define conditional use and accessory use, you don't define a right. On the other hand, I could argue the other side that I don't know how to define a right. All I'm saying is, we don't define a right, so I'm gonna say that by not defining it, a right is whatever anybody thinks is their right on their property. And that's, I think that gets confusing, but I don't, I've been sitting in this chair a long time and I hear this. Well, I have a right.
The language.
How many times have you heard, I have a right? You better define that.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
I'm talking about the R.
Yeah, the R.
I'm talking about the R.
The right per the,
Up here, when you look on page 49.
right per the zoning description.
Yeah.
John, are they
Right.
doing that more, the R in ordinances as opposed to the P for permitted? Not that I
That's
want
actually a personal pet peeve of mine, and here's why. When old ordinances identify uses by right with a P for permitted, a lot of folks, present company excluded, a lot of folks who don't understand zoning think that the uses that aren't P, conditional use and special exception, can be easily denied. And that's not true. So by setting up the uses by right with a P for permitted, it sort of inherently makes people think that the Cs and the SEs can easily be denied because they're not quote unquote permitted. And it creates a lot of confusion. The reality is something's a conditional use. If an applicant meets the requirements, that use needs to be approved in most cases. So I always hesitate and move away from using the P for permitted because there's 3 types of permitted uses. And we know that because the municipality's planning code specifically says that permitted conditional uses and permitted special exceptions are 2 of the 3 use categories that we can use. They're all permitted, all 3.
Yeah, I wasn't
So
necessarily.
that's what they are.
I'm just bringing up the.
Oh, no.
It's just,
Yeah.
we define those things. It's just, I'm pointing it out. You know both, all of you know better than I do.
So what you're saying is add it to definitions.
By right.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I can
Yeah.
appreciate that it's hard to define a right.
Well, I do believe, and I could be wrong about this, Dean, or Dan, sorry, but I do believe that by right is defined in the MPC, though, in the municipality's planning code. So-
Unfortunately, it's not.
Oh, it's not?
No, but I don't have a hard copy. Do we have a definition in the current ordinance? Is that the point you're making?
I doubt it. I highly doubt it.
Well, it'd be an
I
easy
can-
one to add.
We could add a definition just to
be
Yeah.
avoid confusion.
Yeah,
Okay,
there you go. Need a one-sentence definition.
that's fine. I'm shocked by right isn't a definition of in the MPC. I thought it would be, because they define conditional use in there.
They do, and special exceptions.
And special exceptions. So they define, yeah, so. The state of Pennsylvania hasn't defined what your rights are to your property, and now you want Hampton Township
Like
to-
I said,
I'm
was
I'm
just-
kidding,
I
Dan.
was
I'm
sort of
kidding.
just casting a stone in the
I'm
pond
I'm
saying, hey,
kidding,
I just want to
Dan.
point this out, you do what you want with it.
I'm kidding.
I have one other comment. So, if,
There's a good definition in here, AI. Use by right refers to land use that is permitted by local ordinance not needing special approval from a governing body or zoning board. It's often associated with the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code.
Where's this from?
I'll send it to you. It's just on AI.
so everywhere where it says right, you don't need any permission from the township. You don't need to bother coming up here and getting to be a nuisance.
Well, you still may need a building permit.
not
I
what
mean,
that definition
under the
is.
UCC, you still may need a building permit.
For land use.
Oh, yeah.
For land use.
What's
You need a
that?
zoning permit. You need a zoning permit as well. The zoning officer issues a zoning permit.
They just can't deny it.
Right.
They can't deny it.
It
Yeah.
meets the ordinance, right?
Yeah,
Hey,
so-
I had one more comment then, because we were gonna go to like casting our
Yeah,
yay or nays. On the last page, 201, says posting of property, okay? In the case where there's a proposed amendment involves a change to the zoning district map, notice and all that, da-da-da-da. You're gonna have to post notice and all that stuff
Yeah.
up there in that piece of property I just asked about, and
I have to post, that's in the municipality's planning code as well. I have to post, yes. Albert and I will be spending a day some point in February posting properties, especially along the Route 8 corridor, and in the conservation districts too, just not because there's any big change there, but just to cover ourselves. So yes, Albert Cohen and I will be taking pictures and documenting the exact addresses that we post the properties. Hopefully it's a warm day.
May the force be with you.
Oh, yeah. The force and a stapler. Yeah. That was John actually made me do that. He was like, Ryan, you have to post. I was like, okay, boss. Then I looked in the MPC and he wasn't lying, so.
There you go.
Hopefully it's not cold that day.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Well, are there any other, I have some comments, but I'm going to save them for the future improvements file over there. Because they aren't, I think overall I really like the changes, especially the ease of use. I mean, one thing I think I would add is, and it's just so easy, because your tables, we have so many different uses, we have multiple charts. The little legend for how to read what he wanted to know is only on the first one. If you just add that to each page, someone who's not used to looking at that thing could know exactly what they're looking at.
A little footnote on each of the table
Yeah,
pages.
there's just a little legend up on the
Yeah.
top of the first sheet. You just add that on all the other ones. 'Cause
We can do that for sure.
yeah, that's an
It's
easy
like when you
one.
lose your column headings when you're on a
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is, a spreadsheet.
The one thing I'd say, I think a lot of people are gonna end up reading this in E-code when they're looking at it. They're gonna be writing general code on the township's website, so, yeah.
Yep. So, but, yeah, it's modernized, easier to use. Yeah, very good, so. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you. I do have one extra question. Again, Pierre-Yves Lafont at 4077 Clarkland Avenue. I have a question about hobby farms. I see that for properties beyond the 3 acres, I now see this new use created for hobby farms. I moved in together with my wife in Hampton primarily because we are excited about this more rural feeling. We do have a few chickens and we have applied for a permit already for chickens. I wanted to understand how this new hobby farms section, how does it relate to the other section that focuses on domestic chicken keeping? Are chickens included as part of this hobby farm section?
Just keeping chickens on your residential lot wouldn't classify you as a hobby farm. And we can pull up the definition of hobby farm and you can tell us if you meet that requirement or not.
Yeah, I remember when we had this discussion with Amanda, John. I just can't remember the exact nature of it.
Yeah, we'll see if we can find it.
Yeah.
What the definition.
Yeah.
It's funny, Colleen, we just took the chicken thing off the website today because we were like, we enacted that in 2021. No one would ask about it ever again.
It's in the back.
Just did.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I know what the old one was. I
Yeah,
don't know what the new one is.
it's just funny.
It's back here.
Was it under
near
definitions
that
though?
ordinance,
Yeah.
yes. But I don't want to talk
Yeah,
about
so
it.
hobby
Hobby
farm.
farm.
Define it, okay.
It says, as defined herein, located on a tract which has a minimum of 1/4 acre and less than 10 acres required by this ordinance for a farm, but which meets the minimum acreage requirements for a hobby farm, which is an accessory to a single-family dwelling, and which is for the personal use and enjoyment of the residents and does not constitute the principal economic activity of the residents.
Yeah.
Does that help you?
So I believe we will meet those requirements. However, in the hobby farm section, it doesn't define a limit on the number of animals, whereas in the chicken keeping section, it does say maximum 10
Yeah.
chickens if you have more than an acre, and no roosters. I don't see any of this on the hobby farm section. And the reason why I'm asking this is that we purchased a fairly large property we have 9 acres on the property. And so currently, we have to follow the domestic chicken keeping section. I would be interested in understanding if we would still be subject to the domestic chicken keeping section, or if we will now move on to the hobby farm section.
The domestic chicken keeping ordinance is I guess it is, I mean, it's a separate provision of this, but you still would be subject to that. The hobby farm, the ability to define the amount of animals and other things that you can have on a farm and even a hobby farm is limited. I mean, there's because where I used to work had farms, and you know, your ability to zone and regulate farming is limited by the Department of Agriculture to some extent. John, I don't know if you agree or disagree with that statement, but we didn't want to get into how you define, a hobby farm by the number of animals or types of animals or things like that. I mean, I think the definition's actually pretty clear. It's, you know, you're keeping the animals there for essentially, you know, as a
Personal use.
yeah, personal use, as opposed to you're actually farming for profit.
Selling stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But the chicken keeping provision, I mean, that's been clearly defined by the township. You would be subject to that, I believe, yes.
So if I understand correctly, with the hobby farm section, we don't have a specific limit to the number of animals other than what is reasonable given the lot size. But on the chicken keeping section, we are limited to 10 chickens, whether we have 1 or 9 acres. We are limited to 10 chickens and no rooster. Do we have any plan to update that section so that it matches the hobby farm?
Yeah, I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't really think there's the point I would make to you is, if you and your wife are living on that property and you need more than 10, if you have more than 10 chickens on there, I would have questions as to whether or not it's for your use or you're selling eggs elsewhere. At that point, I think you go beyond a hobby farm and move more into agricultural sales and things like that. So I think that's where you're kind of getting, the line gets blurred there, you know, and I think that, yeah.
So I would love to discuss this a little bit more, and I would love to know what is the forum for discussing this, because I do think that it makes sense to have limits on the number of animals. I do think that when you have 1 acre or when you have 9 acres, it makes a big difference in the number of animals that seems reasonable to keep on the property. And I also understand the requirement to not sell products. We don't sell and we don't plan to sell for sure.
If I might say, I think you're going to be best served because you have a specific piece of property in mind, right? Okay? You're going to be best served to come up and make an appointment at the township.
Yeah.
And to discuss your specific, because you're not going to get any answers here on a specific. If you had a specific piece of property that was going through some approval, then we would have this, we would go through the process of that, okay? But you can save yourself a lot of the steps involved just by coming up and make an appointment to meet one of these fine people that are employed every day with the township, and they can help you get through this and say, well, you're not gonna ever be able to do this, but you can probably do this, but you're not big enough to have more than 9 chickens, and you're not big, and it's not a commercial thing, so you can't have, theoretically, you can't have an egg stand on the road.
Yeah.
Selling eggs. You'll see that in municipalities that aren't that far from here. But that is further, that type of operation tends to be a little further out rurally than this area right here has. We just ran out of space.
Yeah, to me, a hobby farm is exactly what was defined there, where it's, you know, it's for personal use and you're not doing it as the primary. You know, you're not essentially using the land for a major financial operation for yourself. I think the other problem you're going to get into, or not problem, but the other question you're going to raise is we would probably we'd have to check with regulations at the Department of Agriculture as well in terms of, you know, what you can do on a piece of property. I don't really want to get into a point with the zoning ordinance where we're saying, between 1 and 3 acres, you can have this number of animals. Between 3 and 6 acres, you can have this number. it would be a totally arbitrary number we would just make up in our heads as to how many acres could support a certain amount of animals. I don't even know how we could get into that.
That hasn't been done in the past because it takes
Yeah.
far more acreage to have one elephant.
Yeah. Or horses. I mean, if you have
To
horse,
seven
yeah.
goats. So
Yeah.
when you start
Yeah.
that numbers thing,
Yeah.
it gets real.
Yeah,
We
I would
actually
say.
have exotic animal parks as an issue, but
Yeah, but I would say this, I'll give you my card after this. If you want to come up, we can talk about, what you could do on that property with animals. I honestly would have to talk to our legal counsel just in terms of what they know of the case law and the Department of Agriculture's regulations on animals.
Sounds
So
good.
I don't know offhand.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yep, thank you.
That's why, I mean, we had a regulation actually in here in this ordinance about the number of I think there was a regulation for animals on the number of cats that people could have. Yeah, we took that out of the ordinance. I mean, no one's going to go into a house and say, you have more than 5 cats, you have to get rid of a cat. Like, we're not gonna enforce that.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. No, there was a limit. I can't remember what it was. It might have been
I know what
4 or
it was.
5, and I was like, we can't. I was like, I can't imagine.
You'll wish you had a limit someday. That's all, because I can tell you crazy stuff.
Oh, Dan, and that very well may be true, but the problem is then you have those really nice people who do have 5 to 6 cats and they keep
Oh,
their
I'm not talking
properties
5 or
and,
6.
yeah, so, I know. That's fair.
All right, any other questions or discussion? If not, I guess we can have a motion to recommend approval of this.
Are we doing the zoning ordinance and the subdivision and the saldo differently? Do we have to make 2 motions or anything? This is a procedural question.
I mean, I'm not gonna give you legal advice,
There-
but I would say you could do one combined motion, I think, for both.
Okay.
The two
think so.
processes are running parallel, and the hearings are gonna be the same night for the 2 ordinances.
And we're voting to recommend approval,
Correct.
just like we do in our normal process and
Yep.
other things.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir.
Looks like you got it, Dan.
Okay.
You ask a question, you can move.
I make a motion that we vote on recommending approval for the draft zoning ordinance of 1/7/26 and the draft saldo of 1/5/26 to Township Council.
I'll second.
Moving to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Recommended.
Thank you, John, for all your help.
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you guys.
Looks really
Good
good.
process.
Yeah.
We're off to the races now for the adoption.
Nice job.
Good job.
Yep. We'll see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Planning Commission minutes.
yeah, old business. Now we have old business, and our first and only item, I believe, is approval of minutes from Planning Commission meeting of November 10th, 2025.
I'll recommend approval of 10/10/25 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. And that leaves new business, which isn't on here, but is there any new business? No.
Oh, other than, did I put a note on those? Do you want hard copies of all of the other minutes? Everything's
Oh,
online.
from all the
now.
other-
Yeah.
No, if it's
Everything's
online, I'll find it there.
I think that.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. No new business, that leaves adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
You got a half an hour.